oil very, very swiftly moving higher again. It's been the war in the Middle East. If it ends, if it continues, if it escalates, that has what's dictated markets over the last few months. At the moment, the Strait of Hormuz is technically open. There's a ceasefire in existence. There's still the risk that they can't come to an agreement. That's what's been moving markets recently, and that's still what's number one really on everyone's radar. Hello and welcome to ATFX's look ahead at H2 2026. We can't look at the second half of the year without having a little bit of a look in the rearview mirror in what went on in the first half of 2026. We've seen records in global stocks, global stock indices, tech stocks leading the way, as we should all be aware. We saw a massive new fresh high in gold. Recently, we've seen dollar yen hitting a 40-year high. We've seen a new Fed chair. And of course, over the last few months, one of the major factors has been geopolitical, and it's been the war in the Middle East that has seen oil rally to massive highs and then come back off again as peace hopes accelerated. Loads going on. Plenty to get stuck into over this series. We're going to look at a few key points. One of the main points, of course, is that war in the Middle East. What's going to happen if it ends, if it continues, if it escalates? So plenty going on there. That has what's dictated markets over the last few months. We're also going to have a look at the solid fundamentals. We're going to look at some of the data we're expecting to come out, some of the central bank moves, and they have changed a fair bit. And then in the final one, we're going to look at geopolitics and some of the political landscape in general and how that's going to affect markets, taking out that huge factor that's the Middle East war. So for this one, we're just going to have a quick run through of what's been going on recently in the war in the Middle East. As I said, kicked off US and Israel attacking Iran. It escalated around the region. We've seen strikes across from Israel into Lebanon. We've seen strikes from Iran across the Gulf to their Gulf neighbours, US retaliating in kind. At the moment, the Strait of Hormuz is technically open. There's a ceasefire in existence, but the firing seems to be going on. So cease is a different interpretation for a few things. And what we're going to be looking at now is what could happen. So three potential scenarios with the Middle East. One, we see an escalation in the war. That should see what we've seen before, what we saw a few months ago. Oil very, very swiftly moving higher again. 120 for both Brent and for WTI would be the target. That's where we saw some highs a few months ago. We're back down around the 70 level for both now. So things are looking better, certainly from a market perspective. So that would obviously lead to more inflationary concerns. It would then lead to higher yields. We'd seen the dollar moving higher. And in theory, we'd see stocks move lower. But to be fair, stocks are still going great guns despite what we've seen over the last few months. So a lot of investors will be taking great heart from that. Okay, second one up. The war does finish now, and we're all hopeful that that occurs. Peace negotiations are going on at the moment, and there's still a lot of toing and froing between the US and Iran. We would see oil come back, and we're not too far off of those pre-oil levels. Inflationary concerns should recede, but we will obviously have the follow-through from what we've had over the last few months hitting the market still. Probably see the dollar fall off a bit. But as I said, we'll then look at that in the fundamental side of things. Might not be that happens. But certainly getting back to a more normalized markets, and the number one mover, which has been the number one mover over the last few months, has been oil. Expect that to move back down lower again. The last one is we see a continuation of what we've seen over the last few weeks. So we don't quite get that end of the war. We don't see it escalate, but we continue to see this to-in and fro-in over a number of months. And this is a possibility as well, as the US and Iran and their allies on both sides can't come to an agreement. And then we've got traders that are reacting. It's very news driven. It's very volatile markets. We see the oil jump $5 or 5%. We then see it come back down on good news. That's the third. At the moment, that's looking more likely over the short term. Longer term, hopefully we do get some peace and we see oil back down to those pre-level. And then obviously there's still the risk that they can't come to an agreement and strikes increase and we start to see that war escalate, and that's probably not good for anyone. We're going to see inflation concerns drive through the roof, as I said before. So that's number one part of the series. It's probably the most short term as well, because that's what's been moving markets recently, and that's still what's number one really on everyone's radar. But moving forward, next part of the series, we'll have a quick look at how the fundamentals could change and how that's going to be able to make you be able to trade some better trending markets. So thanks for tuning in. As always, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already to our channel, we'll keep you up to date on everything going on in the market. Thanks very much and all the best from ATFX.